So Brian, Freese and Nichols has thrived for more than 130 years and was recently honored with the Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award for the second time. What core values and business practices have really sustained that success? I mean, that's a long time. And how do you kind of continue driving that innovation without kind of losing sight of the legacy of the firm? I think that's probably a balancing act.
Our values here at the company are the core of who we are as an organization, and really, I believe, drive the success of the company. So, 10 years ago when I became our CEO, we had like a typical engineering firm that had been around for a while. We had mission, vision, and what we called guiding principles. And when I became CEO, one of the main things I said from day one is in order for us to continue to have success as an organization, we need to maintain our culture.
Can a civil engineering firm really establish deep-rooted values and then maintain them while they grow from a couple of hundred people to thousands of people? Well, today we have proof that they can. In today's episode, I am thrilled to have with me Brian Coltharp. Brian is a licensed professional engineer, president and CEO of Freese and Nichols. And Brian's going to talk to us about how 10 years ago, when he took over as CEO, they established a value system with a great acronym that they now use to build that culture, set the culture, and hold expectations for all of their professionals, including their leaders. And those values have stuck with them, and they've grown with those values over time. He's also going to talk about how client experience, the client relationship, is so important, and how they've really built a habit of developing clients, not projects, at Freese and Nichols. I'm Anthony Fasano, and this is the Civil Engineering CEO. Right now, I'd like to welcome my guest onto the show for today. Brian Coltharp is a licensed professional engineer, and he's the president and CEO of Freese and Nichols. Brian, welcome to the Civil Engineering CEO.
Great. Thank you. Looking forward to a great conversation.
Yeah, we're excited to have you here. So, Brian, maybe you can start off by telling our audience a little bit about yourself and kind of your current role as president and CEO of Freese and Nichols. What does the day-to-day look like for you?
Sure. So, grew up here in a small town in Texas. Really had no engineering in my family at all. But my dad had a lumber yard in the small town I'm from. So I was around construction all the time. And so when I got ready to graduate high school, this is the mid 80s, right? So no internet, no anything like that. So I went to the high school library, started looking up construction industry, found this thing called civil engineering. And that's how I ended up in civil engineering, went to the University of Texas here in Arlington, graduated civil engineering degree, graduated on a Saturday afternoon, started at Freese and Nichols the next Monday afternoon in May of 1992. So
Wow.
33 years ago. And been a great fit for me. Freese and Nichols, a great company, founded back in 1894. Public agencies, state agencies, federal agencies, cities, municipalities. That's our biggest client base. Really a great culture at the company, a family culture, which attracted me to the organization. And one of the big things that's kept me here over the years. So started out in our water resources practice, doing water, wastewater, pipeline, pump station design. I did that for a lot of years. Became our company-wide water practice leader, which just meant I was responsible for the health and growth of our water business across the company. And then back in 2015, I went through our previous CEO was ready to wind down, step down. And so we went through a selection process. I got selected to be our CEO officially in December of 2015. So, wow. It's going to be 10 years ago in December. So time's flown by, but it's been great. Again, a great company, family type culture here at the organization. And so today, when I started in 92, we had probably 200 employees, maybe, and we were all in one office in Fort Worth, Texas. Today, we've got over 1,300 employees and I think 34, 35 offices across the country. So seen a lot of growth, a lot of change at the company. But when you do the math on it, it's 10 to 12% revenue growth a year, which is not too crazy. It's been manageable growth, growth that's to the point, to the size where we've been able to keep our culture, keep our values here at the company. And it's been 95% organic growth as well. So not a lot of mergers and acquisitions. But yeah, public agency. So public infrastructure, all about making our communities better, through the projects that we work on across the company. So yeah, it's been good. And today, just from a organizational structure standpoint, a lot of great folks, which is what our industry is all about. My motto has always been surround yourself with great people and let them do what they do. So it's
Right.
been good.
So, Brian, I just have to ask you this question because I know not one civil engineer out there graduates as a civil engineer and says, I want to be the CEO of my company at some point, right? So
Right.
I'm just curious for you in your career journey, in your leadership journey, when was it that you kind of felt like, hey, I kind of like this leadership thing and, kind of wanted to get on that path and kind of what did that look like for you? Because I know that could be different for all engineers.
Yeah. So, typical engineer, when you start out right out of school, you're doing a lot of technical things, right? And so I started the same way, then eventually grew up into project management and then ultimately management of people. So group management across the company. So followed probably a typical path of a lot of engineers. Again, it's a people business. I love being around people. I love our staff. I love our working with our clients. Really putting people in a place where they have the opportunity to have success. And so it's probably around that point where I stepped up to that group management role, where I was actually managing groups of people across the company, and having the opportunity to put them in a place to have success, and just really enjoyed seeing them have that success, and being able to provide them that opportunity. And so certainly now as CEO, that's a big part of what I see each and every day. It's just more at the, obviously at the company level as compared to a individual group level.
That's great. Yeah, I think that that's kind of a really good thing for developing engineers to think about, which is if you're really good at interacting with people and you like being around people and, those project meetings, those presentations, whether it's a board meeting or whatever the case may be for you in your career, that could be kind of a red flag for you to say, hey, maybe this leadership thing is kind of a positive direction for me because, we do a lot of like custom project management development and training for companies. And I always tell companies and PMs that the biggest misnomer about project management is it doesn't have the word people in it, which it should, right? Because,
Absolutely.
project development, business development, all of it revolves around people, leading teams. And so I think if you kind of have a feel that that's something that you think you're good at, and even if you're just okay, believe me, you can develop those skill sets with work. But I think a good engineering background coupled with those people leadership skills can really help you to grow, and be a real great leader in this industry, which is, got a lot going on right now. So I think that that's something for you to think about as our listeners out there. So Brian, Freese and Nichols has thrived for more than 130 years and was recently honored with the Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award for the second time. What core values and business practices have really sustained that success? I mean, that's a long time. And how do you kind of continue driving that innovation without kind of losing sight of the legacy of the firm? I think that's probably a balancing act.
Yeah. Our values here at the company are the core of who we are as an organization, and really, I believe, drive the success of the company. So, 10 years ago when I became our CEO, we had like a typical engineering firm that had been around for a while. We had mission, vision, and what we called guiding principles. And when I became CEO, one of the main things I said from day one is in order for us to continue to have success as an organization, we need to maintain our culture. Well, what's the first thing you need to do if you're going to maintain your culture? You need to make sure everybody knows what that culture is, right? So we put together focus groups across the company. We asked our leadership, we asked all of our employees, what is it that makes Freese and Nichols who we are as a company? So we got all that feedback back in, and when we compiled it all and looked at it all, it was those guiding principles that we had as a company. The problem with it is that it was like 12 or 13 sentences, so nobody could remember what it was. So we reformulated that into what we call our values today, which is Freese and Nichols leads, which L, the E, the A, the D, the S, they all stand for something. So learn continuously, engage as a family, act with integrity, deliver quality, serve always. So those are our values. So we branded that about 10 years ago, right after I became CEO. That became our values as an organization. And our logo along with that is the North Star. And so the North Star, it never changes. It's always there. It's something that you can always count on. So, specifically to answer your question, that's what drives our success. Every decision that we make here at the company, we make sure is in alignment with our leads values. And so we just have a continuous improvement mindset here at the company. That was driven home to us, really started our continuous improvement journey back in the mid-90s. We had some struggles as a company. Things were changing in our industry, and we weren't changing as a company, and so that really started it. So having that mindset, continuous improvement mindset, has really driven some of our successes as an organization as well. From an innovation standpoint, our mission statement is innovative approaches, practical results, outstanding service. And so we really try to drive home that innovation aspect. And we say innovative approaches, practical results, because, our clients hire us to solve their problems. So we need to be innovative in the solutions that we come up with. But at the same time, we always tell our staff every problem has a practical side to it as well, right? Whether it's political, cost, or whatever. So we always say, if we want to be innovative, but we can't be so innovative out there that if our client has $50 million to do a project, we can't come up with a project that's $100 million, right? Because it's not practical. So we balance that innovative approaches with practical results. And we're all about that great, outstanding service. So from an innovative standpoint, and driving that home with our staff through our mission statement's a big part of what we do.
I think that's great. I think what Brian mentioned there about culture is so important, in that if you want to build a culture, it has to be something that can easily be communicated to people, right? So they understand what that culture is and they can kind of live it out on a daily basis. And I think having kind of the leads acronym and pitching it in that manner so that people can easily remember them and practice them on a daily basis is really, really important. And I'm sure has really contributed to your success. And I think the follow-up question that I'll ask around that is, when you have such a clear culture like that, and you've crafted it in such I think a positive way, talk about how those principles and values kind of shape your decision making, right? Your strategic planning. Like, how do you lean on those as you grow?
Yeah. So, our vision statements: be the firm of choice be the firm of choice for our clients and our employees. And we say that, and that's our vision statement, because we believe those two things go hand in hand. We believe that if we make Freese and Nichols a great place to work, and it's the firm of choice for our employees, then they'll be happy and excited to come to work every day. And if they're happy and excited to come to work every day, then they're going to give that great service to our clients. So that's why we say be the firm of choice for our clients and our employees. And so when you think of that and continue to make Freese and Nichols an even greater place to work, we do a lot of different things around that. We have an annual employee engagement survey. So we're constantly, looking for feedback from our staff on how we can make Freese and Nichols a better place to work. We use that feedback through that employee engagement survey to come up with actions in our strategic plan for the next year on how we can do that. So just continuously working on that, driving those things home through that various means where we get feedback from our staff are ways that we do that.
That's great. And I believe Freese and Nichols just was a great place to work certified for the 8th year in a row. So they're not just kind of talking the talk, they're walking the walk as well. And like Brian said, the survey and the engagement survey, all these types of things can help you with that. And so you mentioned, Brian, that, continuous improvement is a real important thing at Freese and Nichols, right? At all levels of the organization. So maybe you can talk about some of the specific ways that Freese and Nichols support internal leadership development and kind of foster that culture of learning and accountability.
Yeah. So, a lot about listening to our employees on, hearing their feedback and things that we can do to improve. And we do the same thing with our clients, from a engagement standpoint, asking questions, learning from them on things we can do better, things we can do different, throughout that. And then, a lot of it too is, I talked early on about our growth as a company. We say here at the company that we're only growing to create opportunities for our staff. And so, that's a big part of that messaging too on how we do that, across the organization.
That's great. And I know you mentioned this earlier that, you have your values, the leads values, and, you lean on those and you practice those. You also mentioned that you've done a good job of maintaining them as the company has grown. And I'm curious if you could just talk a little bit about how you do that, right? I think when you grow a company, it can become difficult to try to maintain that value system in your culture. And I'm curious if you could just share some of the ways that you try to do that there.
Yeah, I think that gets back to the leadership, of the company. It's up to all of us as leaders in the organization to, model those values, and so that we can have success across the company. So when I think about our leadership and making sure there's consistency, we do several things here at the company. We have Freese and Nichols University, which is our training program, where we teach, a lot of classes around leadership development. We have a very strong mentorship program here at the company as well. Every employee, at Freese and Nichols is eligible, to have a mentor, to guide them, to help them along their career path. And then one thing that's a little bit new for us is that this last time that we, went after we pursued the Baldrige Award again, when we went through the application process. One of the things that came out of our, application process, which was great, was the fact that we talk a lot about leadership. We have a lot of leadership training, that we do here at the company. But if we didn't really have anything that summarized, the attributes and the qualities that we wanted to have in our leaders, here at the company. So we created this. I mean, it's a graphic. We call it our leadership excellence system, but it really defines what we want our leaders to do and how we want them to act. And so now we have that document it's written down. And so we use that to select leaders within our organization. We rate, do employee ratings, back to how they're performing as it relates back to that leadership excellence system. So that was a great thing that came out of this last Baldrige application process, was that now we developed that document. And I really think it's going to help us to maintain that consistency, like you're talking about, as we move forward, and continue on our growth pattern that we've been on.
I think that's great. I think some of the stuff that Brian has talked about, as far as the leads values, having an expectations or these expectations for your leaders, I think it's just so important, because the way I describe it sometimes is like, if someone's in a canoe and they're rowing in a fog, they can't see where they're going, right? They're just like, you're asking them to row, but they're like, well, where am I going? But when you give people clarity, expectations, right? Here are our values. Here are the expectations for you as a leader. Then they have something that they're striving towards, or that they're being held accountable to. And it just makes it a lot easier, I think, to show up to work every day with those kind of expectations. And, they're not just for me, right? They're for all of our leaders here, so we can drive that consistency across our organization, which I think is great. I mean, we have really strong values here at EMI as well. I mean, really simple: give, guide, grow. We give our all, we guide each other, we grow together. And we did formulate them into a larger standard of performance with like 7, again, expectations for everyone who works here. And I think that having these things provide a lot of clarity for people and engagement, right? You're engaged because you know what people expect of you, and then you can expect that of others in the organization. And obviously if it starts with like the CEO and the leadership and, kind of trickles down through leadership, I think that that's a great approach. So
Absolutely.
I know that Freese and Nichols is really well known for client service, client relationships. I know that's something that your company prides itself on. So I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about the origin of that, or just, how you practice that every day. I know in this industry it is so important. I know a lot of companies they live because they have repeat clients, right? That's how you grow your
Right.
organization. So I wonder if you could talk a little bit about that mindset at Freese and Nichols.
Right. It started from day one here at the company. The guy that founded our company, a guy named John Hawley, he moved to Texas, to Fort Worth, from Minnesota, to work on the first surface water supply project for the city of Fort Worth in 1894. So he came to Fort Worth, and he decided to stay here, started up our company. So city of Fort Worth was our first client as a company, and here we are 131 years later, still working for the city of Fort Worth. So I think it started from the very beginning. And one thing we say here at the company is that we pursue clients, not projects. So in other words, if there's a one-off project out there somewhere, that's not really what we're interested in doing. We're interested in working on developing relationships with our clients so we can work on not just one project, but hundreds of projects over 100 years or whatever. So we talk about that a lot. It started at the very beginning of the company. We have a lot of our clients throughout the organization who have been with us for over 100 years. And with our growth, across the southeastern United States that we've had the last 10 to 15 years, that's really been a focus of ours as well. And talking about that to our new clients out there, that, hey, we're here to stay. We value our relationships, and we're in it for the long run. And it's really, that aspect of it has also made it a little bit easier for us to stay connected to the communities that where our offices are. Because again, we're working for the cities. They're really providing us the means to do what we do as an organization. And so we give back to those communities as well. And so we have that relationship, not only on the professional side through the work that we do with our clients, but also some on the personal side and just doing work out in the communities. That's the S in lead, the serve always. So that dates back to the founding fathers of our company as well. They always believed that, hey, we're working for these cities. We should give back to the communities that enable us to do what we do as an organization.
That's great. Yeah. And I think that that's a great mindset of, pursuing clients, not projects. And we tell people all the time when we do our PM training, we tell project managers the project ends, but the relationship shouldn't, right? It continues to go on, hopefully, and you can build it and make sure that it thrives. So that's a great mindset. So Brian, beyond your role at Freese and Nichols, you serve on several boards and professional committees. How has kind of this external involvement influenced your leadership style and, kind of informed your perspective on running a values driven firm?
Those are great things to do. I'd encourage everybody out there to do those things if you're not doing it. One thing for sure, it's a good peer group, and so I know I learn a lot from other individuals that are on these boards around in the communities, and even at the professional level as well. So it's a good sounding board from that standpoint. Certainly, again, modeling our serve always values that we have here at the company is a big part of that. But then also, I feel like it helps us to develop the future generations, for our profession, which I think is something that we all need to be a part of as well.
Yeah, I think getting involved and getting out there can always be very beneficial for leaders. And, you pick up different styles and different perspectives from different leaders that maybe you could integrate some of it into your style if it works for you. And it's just kind of a learning. It's like you said earlier, continuous learning. I think that goes for us as leaders, is that communicating with different leaders, we might pick up some things that might be helpful for us, right, in our leadership endeavors, which is great. So, Brian, what would you say is one final piece of advice that you could share with civil engineering leaders, project managers in our industry that are really aspired to kind of become high-level leaders in their organizations? What's like one kind of piece of leadership advice you could leave them with?
I think it would be present. Again, it's a people business that we're in. I feel like, for me especially, I love getting out, seeing our clients, visiting our offices, visiting our staff. And I think especially today, it's important for us as leaders to not always be sitting behind the desk and talking through the computer, like we do sometimes now, but to actually get out, visit our folks, see them in person, and really get to know them and understand what their needs are, so that we can do the best that we can do to understand those needs and have success at the company and meeting those needs. And it's the same way with our clients, and visiting with them, understanding their needs, and performing to their expectations based on that. So I think that's I feel like it's always been part of my success here at the company, is just those relationships, and getting to know people and understanding what those are.
I think that's great. I mean, there's really nothing like getting out there and engaging with people, meeting them in person, and getting to really talk to them and build those relationships. So that's great. So once again, Brian Coltharp, licensed professional engineer, president and CEO of Freese and Nichols, I want to thank you so much for giving us some time here on the Civil Engineering CEO Show. We really do appreciate the time, Brian.
Thank you for having me.
I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Brian. It's really amazing to hear how they've built that value system and it's grown with them over time. If you enjoyed our conversation, please subscribe to our channel here. We do put out videos like this on a weekly basis to help engineers become better managers and leaders. I'll see you next week.